So I think this is one of the best things we've done at COPs, frankly, is come up with the First Movers Coalition. But we need more we need more companies to step up, be part of it. We have, for instance, Apple and Salesforce and that group I mentioned. They're buying, of all their flight operations, they're making sure that they're buying sustainable aviation fuel to support X amount of those operations. In the case of Ford Motor Company and General Motors, not small enterprises, folks, and Volkswagen and Hyundai and Toyota and Mercedes and blah, 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 all of them are now making commitments to buy a percentage of the steel they use to make the cars that will be green steel. And so the makers of the steel know they have a buyer. And that encourages other people to come into what would be a growing market. So let me just emphasize to every single one of you, and I'm not going to go on very long here, but I want to just emphasize, in this transition that we envision, which is the single biggest economic transformational opportunity since the Industrial Revolution, and it's going to be bigger, because we have 4.5 to 5 billion users today of energy, and there are 8 billion people on the planet, which means there's a gap, and we have to fill the gap. So we have people not complaining about they're deprived of the opportunity to have a decent life, and that it's limited only to certain countries that have already developed, et cetera. We have to address that. But we also have to look at the fact that those folks are now buying steel that's green. That's helping them move the market. And in fact, the members of the First Movers Coalition have now signed 96 offtake agreements in support of their commitments. That's really pretty extraordinary, folks, because those offtake agreements give confidence to this market to begin to develop. Scania has sourced offtake agreements with H2 Steel, green steel, and SSAB to secure enough near-zero steel to more than achieve their first movers commitment. Volvo and Hydro, and you'll hear more from them today, they've made a landmark agreement for supplying near-zero aluminum. Maersk has placed the first green methanol-capable container ship, the Laura Maersk, into service and signed the biggest offtake deal of its kind with Goldwind. Andrew will probably stand up, Andrew Forrest. He's got a ship out here in the harbor that came here from, was it Australia or Singapore? Singapore. And it came from Singapore, and it's running on ammonia. And the future is here in the port, folks. But we want you to understand, United Airlines launched a $200 million sustainable flight fund, and that includes multiple other FMC members. It's expected to support more than 5 million gallons of sustainable aviation fuel. And this is just a portion of what our members have done. So when we founded this coalition, it was born of the understanding that the climate crisis is too severe, too massive for any one player, including any government, to be able to solve it. We can create structure. The IRA, a brilliant example of structure, where an incentive has been created, capital moves to meet the incentive, suddenly you have entrepreneurs seeing a possible future in a market, and boom, off you go. And that is what's happening. And when I first looked at the actions that the first movers have already taken, collaboration between public sector and private sector, we understand that with the finance and supply and demand, those have begun to come together, and they're pushing these markets forward. So, does more have to be done? Yes. But before I hand over to Borge for a further progress update on the FMC, let me just say this to everybody as I close. Every single one of you here should be a first mover. Every single one of you should move your company. If you have a company or you know a company, you're on the board, but every single one of you can push your community to be a first mover, whether it's a school or a building that needs to be refitted. Energy efficiency, the largest, single, cheapest, greatest, biggest gain we can get, energy efficiency, low-hanging fruit. Countless people could be moving in that direction. So I thank everybody for being here. You're going to hear from a really fascinating panel. They're going to talk the new economic reality, and I think this is one of the most important things that will happen in furtherance of this agenda here at the COP. Borge Brende.
Thank you so much, Secretary Kerry, dear John. I don't think we could have had any better ambassador or leader of the First Movers Coalition than John. He also, in Glasgow, as you know, he persuaded President Biden to join us also for the launch, and it has now become the largest private sector clean energy and clean demand in the world. So it's very, very consequential. And as also John mentioned, we now have 95 companies that have joined us, 120 commitments across 7 sectors. And nothing succeeds like success, so we are having more companies joining. Hopefully there are some CEOs in the room that after Secretary Kerry's inspirational speech also will join. And on top of this, we also have 13 governments that have joined as a partner. And the public-private partnership is really important. My take on what John just shared with us is that the cost of inaction now far exceeds the cost that have joined as a partner. And the public-private partnership is really important. My take on what John just shared with us is that the cost of inaction now far exceeds the cost of action. So this is the time to act. It was very interesting also in preparation when we were in this green room, and I talked to the CEOs that are here. I asked, do you feel that there is no more demand for the green products too? Because that's what we're trying to create. Because these are businesses, so there has to be a demand if you produce greener. And there is a change. There is a change in many sectors. And I think future-oriented companies also prepare for what is today, but also for the future. And we know that human capital is also extremely important today. And of course, the most talented young people in the world would like to work for a company that is also thinking about our planet and the future. So we're very proud at the World Economic Forum that we can host this First Movers Coalition. We are just at the beginning, and you see some of the impressive companies there today. But it's all about walking the talk. And that's what we're going to see today too. We have an amazing panel coming up. But before that, I'm going to then ask 2 companies to join me up here that are walking the talk. It is Volvo with its CEO and president, Martin Lundstedt, and it's Norsk Hydro with the CEO, Hilde Merete Aasheim. And they will come up here and tell us what they can announce today. So we're very excited. So Hilde and also Martin, please join me up here. Give them an applause.
So it's a great honor to be here from Volvo together with Norsk Hydro. We had the pleasure to announce 2 years ago that we started shipping of the first fossil-free steel for industrial products, and they are in production. And now we take the next step by not only signing an agreement, but actually also getting to tangible outcome when it comes to fossil-free or near zero now as the first step, aluminium. That's a huge step for the industry coming into our industrial products, trucks and construction equipment. And we are also continuing to explore the opportunity to supply them the zero-emission vehicles into the heavy transport of Hydro. So it's a true circular, a great step forward.
And we are also very proud and excited to sign this joint collaboration agreement today. I was first time in the first coalition in Davos in January, and we recently joined.